हारा, सुनत बचन के पवन कुमारा, राम काज करी फिर मैं आवो, सीता कही सुध प्रभु ये सुनावो, तव तव बदन पैठी हूँ आई, सत्य कहूँ मैं जानत माई, कवने जतन दे नहीं जाना, ग्रस्त न मोई कहे हनुमाना, जो जन बरतई बदन पसारा, कपितन कीन तुगन विस्तारा, सोले ओजन मुक्त हो, तुरत पवन सुत 32 भयहु, जस जस सुरसा बदन बढ़ावा, कासु दून कपि रूप दिखावा, सत जो जन ते आनन कीना, तिलक रूप पवन सुत लीना, बदन पैठ पुनि बाहिर आवा, मांगा विदाता सिर नावा, होय सुरन जय लाग पठावा, बुद्धि बल मर्म तोर मैं पावा, राम काज सब करी हूँ, तुम बल बुद्धि निदान, आशीष दे गई सो हर्ष चले हनुमान, निश्चर एक सिंधु मारही, करि माया नभ के खग दही, जीव जंतु जय गगन उड़ाई, जल बिलोक तिनके पर छाही, कहीं छाह सक सोना उड़ाई, ए विधि सदा गगन चरखाई, सोई छल हनुमान तय कीना, तासु कपट कपि तुरत ही चीना, ताहि मारी मारु सुत वीरा, मारिति पार गयो मति धीरा, तहाँ जाय देखी वन शोभा, कुंजत चंचरीक मधुलोभा, नाना तरु फल फूल सुहा।
All right. Hey, everyone. Thank you for joining. So today is our Sunday practice session. And I thought I'll share. I was just happening to read this book, and so I thought I'll create a session around that. Let me do my background. So this is the book on, if you can see, can't see. This is the book, The Miracle of Love on Neem Karoli Baba. It's stories about Neem Karoli Baba. So I thought we can spend this session reading stories about him and just talking about him, and maybe do a bit of chanting. So Neem Karoli Baba lived in the 1900s, and he was very simple, like simply clothed, as you can see. I don't know if all of you have heard of him, but he lived in the northern part of India, and very simple person. His teachings were also very simple. He just said, love everyone, serve everyone, remember God. And that was it. Like he didn't have any complex practices. And okay, Neha, you have this book. Great. So very simple, but then somehow so many people across the world were attracted to him and were able to spend time with him, and miraculous things happened around him. Though he said, I'm not doing anything, God does everything. So yeah, very, very fascinating. I would highly recommend a documentary that's on YouTube around his life, just people sharing stories. Just it's an hour or so long, I think. Just spending time with that is also very transformative. Just I feel like his presence comes through even that. For me, I think I heard about Neem Karoli Baba through my teacher, and then of course came in touch with the documentary and the books, and then there's Krishna Das, who's again one of the Western followers, who does chants and kirtans. I've been lucky to attend his kirtan. I feel like he channels Neem Karoli Baba's energy in his kirtans and as he sings, which is very beautiful. And so yeah, it's just oh great. So something very powerful, something very simple and beautiful and powerful. So I thought we can spend some time just sharing things about him. Yeah, sure, I'll share it on WhatsApp. Um, so then some of the stories around him are, of course, one is how his name even came into being, right? Like he was just traveling on a train, and firstly, of course, it's not much is known about his biography as such. He's said to have appeared across generations. People have seen him, so it's very mystical how that has happened. Like people say, yes, my grandfather used to have him as his guru, and even now he's alive, right? Like things like that, like very strange things around him, strange stories. And then it is said that as a young person, he left with devotion to Hanuman in his heart, and he kind of did a lot of austerities and things. And then, of course, the first known story around him is when he was on a train. He was a mendicant, a sadhu, and then he was traveling without a ticket, and they said, "Get off the train." And then as soon as he got off the train wouldn't move. Like nobody knew why. They checked everything, and the train wouldn't move. And someone told them, the person you asked to get off, he's a very holy saint, so maybe that's what it is. So just get him back, right? And so they requested that he come back, and then the train started to move. So and the station where this happened was called Neem Karoli, and that's how his name is Neem Karoli Baba. Um, yeah, so things like that. And then the person who made him and his teachings famous across the Western world is Ram Dass, who was a Harvard. He was studying at Harvard. Uh, he was studying about substances and how they work and so on. And then he was kind of feeling lost. He was traveling in India, and he meets him, and he's carrying like this big pouch of like some drug, right? And then he says, so Neem Karoli Baba says, "What is it that you have there? Give it to me." And he says, and he had like enough to sort of, you have it, you're going to die, right? And he just took it and he ate it all at once. And then he just continued sitting there and just talking. So Ramdas was very like, he was taken aback, and he also shared about him and his mother and things that he couldn't have possibly known. And so after that, I think he stayed with him for several years and learned from him, or just by being with him, I think his life was transformed. Um, so yeah, very interesting stories like that. Now I'd like to read from the book. So maybe if you want to give me a page number, goes all the way from, goes all the way up to almost 400. Yeah, 400 or so. 400.
271.
Yeah.
271. Oh, there's one person more.
19, right? The first one. Okay, let's do that. Okay, 19. The story starts on 18, so let me read that from there. So, so this is on darshan. The section is darshan, and then this is about. So it says, true, many wanted something worldly from the miracle Baba, but beyond that, they wanted once again to taste of the nectar of being with him. Many of us vacillated in our reactions to this constant demand upon Maharaj-ji. So he was called Maharaj-ji, for those who don't know. At one moment, we saw ourselves and the other devotees and seekers as so many vultures around a piece of raw meat, or like flies crawling over a piece of sugar. At those times, we tried to protect him, and often we held back so as not to contribute to the scene. But at other times, we would realize how totally Maharajji had control of the situation. When he felt that people were, as he put it, eating his head, he would simply go into a back room and close the door, or send everyone away, or get in a car and leave without a backward glance. Once, after traveling many months to see Maharajji, we at last found him at a devotee's home in Delhi. We were allowed into the back room with him for a few minutes, and then were sent out to have tea with many others. About 15 minutes later, Maharajji walked out of the inner room and right by us, not more than 2 feet from our faces, with not the least turn of the head or signal of recognition. He went to a car in which a driver was waiting. He got in, and the car left for a destination unknown. Such a person was clearly not at our mercy. So Maharajji kept continually on the move in a totally unpredictable fashion. Within a temple compound, he would move from place to place, at one moment freely available, while at the next closeted in some room with the doors securely bolted. Were that his only movement, devotees could settle near the temple and just visit each day and wait for the moments when he would appear. But his movement was not limited to a single compound. Rather, he wandered from village to village, from the mountains to the plains, from one end of India to the other, from temples to private homes to jungle ashrams. In the middle of the night, he might leave unannounced for a destination unknown. Or he might board a train and be destined for a certain city, only to leave the train at some other station. Sometimes so quickly, even as the train was moving, that devotees who had followed him were left behind. The intense desire of the devotees to be with Maharaj-ji, combined with his elusive and unpredictable behavior, gave rise to the most intricate dramas of hide and seek, labeled by one waggish devotee as the Great Grace Race. Being a devotee of Maharaj-ji was like participating in a continuous and unending treasure hunt, limited only by economic resources or family responsibilities. The pot of gold was, of course, darshan with Maharaj-ji, and gold it was. One Indian devotee put it succinctly when he said, even sexual intercourse with my wife cannot equal darshan with Maharaj. The Indian devotees had an intricate communication system that allowed them at least 30% of the time to trace Maharaj-ji and know of his whereabouts within a day of his arrival in any town or village. We Westerners were not so lucky, and so we had to use our wits, our intuitions, our cunning, and our unmitigated gall to get to his feet. Our percentage of success was perhaps not so impressive as that of the Indian devotees, but our style and our dramatic entrances and exits certainly were. I was having Maharajji's darshan, and all of a sudden Tukaram walked up. I asked Tukaram how he had gotten in, and he said, "Oh, I jumped over the wall." And I thought, "Oh God, well, I won't be here for long." Then Krishna Priya climbed in. The chowkidar saw her clambering over the wall, and since he didn't want to take the blame for letting them in, he went to tell Maharajji. The gatekeeper said, "Baba, these people climbed over the wall. I'm sorry, I did the best I could to keep them out." Maharaji's initial reaction to the chowkidar's report was rage. "Get 'em out, get 'em all out." I got thrown out too. We Westerners shared the guilt among us. We came back the next day for darshan and discovered that overnight the wall had been doubled in height. Okay, it's a funny story. Okay, let's do the next one. 271. So he was known to be like eccentric, or you could say, right? Like from an outward standpoint, you could say very eccentric. Like he would say something to one person. I mean, he would be saying one thing and then he would contradict himself after a few lines. Like he would say the opposite instruction. So the idea was to like unhook people, like to just say, okay, now you're caught up in this. Now I'm going to like basically the feeling was that people had was he was undoing them, right? Like we have all these constructs where we're very settled and we feel this is my world. You just like sort of break that apart and to bring you into like presence, right? And to come back to love. And that was his main teaching. So any sort of concept can take you away from that. And that's why the chants also are all about more than what it means or what's happening. It's more about, okay, just come back here and to the word, to the name, or whatever the thing you're saying, right? So yeah. Okay, let's do 271. 271 is from the section Family Man. It actually starts with the story on 271. So Siddhima was one of his foremost disciples, you could say, and he met her when she was just 7 years old, and I think later she joins him, and she was the one who kind of took over running of the ashram and everything once he passed on. So Siddhima one day described the marriage leela of one of Maharajji's longtime devotees. On the very day of this man's marriage, which Maharajji had arranged and insisted upon to the man's objection, the man sat before Maharajji and would not leave him. But Maharajji insisted so forcibly that at last the man was taken and dressed in groom's garb and seated on a horse for the ride to the bride's home. As he was riding through the jungle, he spied Maharajji wandering there and he leaped off his horse and ran to him. Again, Maharajji forced him to return and continue with the marriage. The man whose children are now being married reports that this marriage was a spiritual boon and freed him from many misconceptions. Only after marriage, he reports, did his sadhana truly begin. On hearing this story, another devotee told of a man whose marriage was all arranged, and on the wedding day, The groom's procession passed by Kanchi. The grooms saw that Maharaj-ji was there and so stopped off with the intention of obtaining his blessings before continuing on. To his surprise, Maharaj-ji instead detained him, refusing him to let him continue to the bride's home, and the man never married. Although Maharaj-ji was formal and traditional in his reactions to the Indian marriages, he obviously recognized vast cultural differences in the marriage mores of his Western devotees. Some he pressed continually to marry, asking them again and again and offering to them as a partner one choice after another. In a few instances, he took two relative strangers and announced that they were now married or should marry. Sometimes Maharaji talked about a certain union so much with two potential partners that they psychologically accepted the match as fate accompli. Then Maharaji would never mention the matter again and the marriage would not happen. Sometimes, when such an arranged marriage didn't seem to take, he dissolved it with alacrity. 3 times, Maharaji asked me if I wanted to get married. So, this is a compilation by Ramdas. So, when he says I think it's usually him. The first time was with Ian. Every evening after the darshan, we'd walk the 2 miles up that beautiful Kanchi valley to our houses in Ningla. And was such an astral being that when I was with him, everything was magic, roses and winged fairies. One night when Ayan came over to my house, there was a lot of sexual energy in the air. I turned it away since it really wasn't the time or the place. But after he left, my whole body was alive with desire. I just lay there with it and tried to think of Maharaj-ji. The next morning, the minute I entered the temple for darshan, Maharaj-ji called me right into the room where he was sitting with Dada. Maharaj-ji asked me, "Do you want to get married?" I said, "No." He said, "Do you want to marry Ian?" No, no, I wasn't horrified. There was simply no question in my mind. I hadn't even made a connection between this darshan and the night before. Maybe there wasn't one. But as Maharaji was asking me, he looked deeply at me as if to study my whole being. And then he turned around to Dada and said, "She's very good." And then he hit me on the head and said, "You're very good. Don't get married. Ja." So this is not Ramdas. I think this is some lady. I started to get up and then he said, "Sit down." He hit me on the head again and said again, "You're very good. Don't get married. Ja." And again another time before I left. The second time he asked me whether I wanted to get married was after I had hitchhiked from Vrindavan to Kanchi with Carlos Vishwanath. It was an overnight trip and he had slept on the platform of some station. When we arrived in Kanchi, Maharaj pulled me into his room right away and asked, "Do you want to marry Vishwanath?" Again, there was no question in my mind. So Maharaj said, "Acha, good. Don't get married. Ciao." The third time occurred when another devotee playfully said to Maharaj-ji, "Saraswati isn't married yet. You haven't married her off yet. You should marry her to Ravidas." Maharaj-ji said, "Acha, that's very good. Bring her here." When I appeared, he asked me, "Do you want to marry Ravidas?" The devotee started laughing. I said, "But Maharaj-ji is like my father." So Maharaj-ji said, "Acha, very good. Don't get married." And he sent me out again. Then he called in Ravidas and asked him the same question about me. Ravidas's reply was, "Maharaj-ji, I only want to marry you." Okay. So, yeah, it's very interesting because for me, I feel like when usually the place we come from, we're studying teachings and things like that. And some of these teachers, when I read about Maharaj-ji or Ramana Maharishi or Nisargadatta Maharaj, it's about how they were people of their times, like they operated in some ways like an elder who would of that time, right? And yet there was something very deep and realized within them, and that they could see, like you can see, maybe they could see things about you that that they couldn't possibly know about. And so just to keep in mind that you never know who is realized and who is not and what they might appear like. Again, like the story I had shared about Annamalai Swami's encounter as well. So these things are very fascinating. I feel India is full of these kinds of people. I mean, we keep hearing about it even now. You'd never think, I mean, if you crossed by these people, you'd be like, wouldn't give them a second glance, right? Like, and you think like, who are these people, right? Like very rustic or very like, so then, but then there's a lot of wisdom, there's a lot of wise people out there. Okay, what's the next number? Do we have another? Anyone else? Anything else? Maybe one last one we can do before we get into the chant. Yeah. Can I
Hmm.
say
I don't
anything?
have a number, I know, but I was going to say, okay, I have been to the Neem Karoli Baba ashram, which is so funny because I didn't know we went to Kanpur and close by,
Yeah.
and then heard that there is this ashram. And I had just seen the documentary because Nitya had shared the documentary.
Oh, okay.
So very quickly, I see the documentary and I have a trip to India. I go to Kanpur and they're like, this Neem Karoli Baba ashram, and somehow some other people want to go, and me and Sangi, we end up going.
Oh, wow.
It's a smaller temple. It's not like Kanchi, but that's the Neem Karoli Baba temple, and it was divine.
Oh,
It
wow.
was an amazing Aarti experience, amazing. So out of nowhere,
Yeah.
very, very quickly, and absolutely amazing. And
Right.
then the last year I went to India, I was coming back. I had a very nice seat where I felt like I was sleeping. I was not first time interested in talking to a person next to me, some old elderly lady, Indian. And then almost as we are landing into, New York, she starts talking to me, and turns out she lives in Kachi, and she was a devotee of Neem Karoli Baba. She was very, very young, and she had been with him, and randomly starts talking about Neem Karoli Baba, and she gives me a photo of him.
Oh my gosh.
I was like, that
Wow.
is so amazing. And so the part that he is magical is
Yeah.
so believable because, within a span of like a month, I'm like, I have been to, not Kachi Dham, which is more famous, but
Yeah.
actually Neem Karoli, which I just saw in the documentary.
Oh,
And the
wow.
energy is so he's amazing. And this person I'm not even talking to, and
Yeah.
I don't know. I told my husband, he's like, how do you go from not talking to she giving you a photo of Neem Karoli Baba? I'm like,
Yeah.
that's magic. So
No,
I would
this
say something not to be understood.
definitely. Yeah, you can't like process it
Right?
with your mind. Like, yeah, true.
Yeah.
Very true. No, the same thing happened to me. I mean, I've not been to any of the ashrams I want to go, but whenever it happens. But I was in
I
India.
didn't even, I didn't have a desire, so it can happen without
It can
you
happen even
desiring.
without when you're not thinking. True.
Yeah.
So I went
Yeah.
to India and I was thinking about this that I want to go there, right? Like I'm just thinking about him and everything. I go to my cousin's place and they say, okay, you stay in this room, right? And I go there and I see Neem Karoli Baba's photo there, okay? And I'm like, I didn't even know that this person was connected to him. And I asked him, how do you have this photo? Do you know about Neem Karoli Baba? And he says, no, I have no clue about him actually. And I was visiting this town nearby there and they said there's this Baba nearby and they gave me this photo and that's how I have it. Now I think maybe I should look up and read about him. So it's so interesting how he gets into people's lives. And for me it felt like a
Yeah.
blessing, like, okay, here I am, don't worry, right? Like
Yeah.
yeah, it's just
In
like when
in
you
this
it's just the
temple
energy, you can't
also,
explain these things much.
yeah, in the original temple that I went to, they have these huge photographs of Neem Karoli Baba, huge, like bigger than life size, and you almost feel like you are in his presence. It's like
Mm,
under the temple, there's like a room where he used to sit.
yeah,
So there's a kambal, and there's like all around his life size photographs, and you almost feel like you are. It's very powerful. They
yeah,
just let you visit it quickly, and like not many people are allowed. So
yeah,
amazing.
yeah. Great, thank you for
Thanks
sharing
for
that.
picking this topic. When you picked this for this week, I was like, oh, again. So Baba keep appearing.
Yeah. I don't feel like I pick, right? I was like, okay, what do I do? What do I do? The whole week, nothing was coming very clearly. And then suddenly on Friday, it was very clear, like, okay, this, like.
Yeah, yeah. And I think Hanumanji and him, right? Very, very deep connection.
Yes. Yeah.
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 This is nice.
Manisha wants to say
Thank you.
something. Go on. You have to unmute.
Okay. Now,
Yes.
yeah, all right. Okay. So as you all were talking, like I have Shirdi Baba as my guru. Like I
Mm-hmm.
think rather we don't choose, he chooses us.
Yeah.
So the stories, what you're saying, they are all relatable because, the names are different, but those times that's how they would all work in oneness.
True.
And if you're connected to one, I think you're just connected to all of them.
Yes.
And when even now, I generally don't attend, but I read your on WhatsApp, you're talking about Neem Karoli Baba, so I just jumped into it
Oh,
to
nice.
just experience because I feel wherever they're just talking about them, their presence is there. We cannot even talk without their grace and their
So
allowance.
true. Yeah.
Yeah, and even when Shubhra was talking about how she reached there, that's how when we read about, first time when I read about Shirdi Baba, even he would always say that even if my picture is there in one house, for generations, if it is there, and like suppose my great grandfather had a picture and I don't know anything about him, but he's watching each and every one, and that's how we just get connected. So and it's that, when, and he gives those kind of experiences where, we cannot deny, like, we see that, oh, he's watching. If we are passing and suppose some car has the name of like Neem Karoli Baba, or wherever our attention goes, it's not we who choose to look out there.
Yeah.
They see to it, drawn to them. So it's always, I think, so wonderful, such spaces when they are talked about. I think we are blessed to just even hear about them.
Yeah, very true.
And yeah,
No, what a
yeah,
powerful share. Very true. I think you just get, like you said, yeah, did you think of him or did he think of us, right? Like, I think he thought of us and said, okay, do this today, right? Like, it does feel like that. And sometimes your mind says, no, but this and this and this. And, that's how it happened. But yeah. And sometimes you can't even explain that. And I think most of these teachers do that to you where you stop explaining things, right? And you just experience what
yeah,
is happening. Yeah.
yeah, true, true. And once you have even one master in your life, I think our life just becomes like they are carrying us.
Yeah.
Every single moment, like what Nitya talks about, मन का हो तो अच्छा ना हो तो और भी अच्छा.
Mm-hmm.
So actually when we live by that, we see that everything is looked after, every single thing.
Yeah.
Like, I think life becomes so beautiful.
Yeah, very true. You just
Yeah,
trust and surrender, like the cat versus the monkey, right? The cat just
true, true, true.
allows itself to be carried versus like hanging on and trying to do things like a monkey. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, very true. Beautiful example. Yeah.
Yeah.
You give this example also, I feel, we can't do it on our own. It's, they just, oh, we become a channel and they speak through us. It's
Yeah.
like that.
Very true. Very true. Thank you. Thank you for joining.
Thank you.
All right. I think anyone else? Oh, no, that was Manisha. Anyone else wants to share anything?
You got a page number 342,
Oh,
Manisha
I
friend.
did. Okay, let's do that and then we'll do chat.
342.
342. Okay. Okay, this is on the section sadhana. 342. Okay. So Swami Shivananda was considered one of the great saints of India. He left behind him many disciples and a great ashram in Rishikesh. Maharaj-ji would now and then visit the ashram unannounced. Each visit, some incident would occur that would be long remembered at the ashram. Sometimes the head of the ashram would prepare food for Maharaj-ji with his own hands. Once, Maharaj-ji called for a Swami who was very old and revered. This Swami honored only the memory of the great Shivananda and would not even bow to anyone else. As he came near Maharaj-ji, Maharaj-ji shouted, Vedavyas, a great historical saint in India, Vedavyas has come. The Swami's entire demeanor changed and he did full Danda Pranam before Maharaj-ji. In some deeper way, they recognized one another. For the highest saints, Maharaji held the greatest reverence and love. When one was privileged to hear him talk of such beings, it was like hearing him speak of members of an intimate and loving family. Just the quality of his voice as he spoke or remembered or reflected conveyed the depth of the connection. He spoke this way of such as Christ, Ramakrishna, Harya Khan Baba, Tailanga Swami, Shirdi Sai Baba, Ramana Maharishi, Nityananda, Ananda Mahima, Sumbari Maharaj, Diorya Baba, and Shivananda, among others. A picture of Shirdi Sai Baba was given to Maharaj-ji and placed at his feet. Maharaj-ji immediately sat up and took up the picture. It doesn't belong there. He was a very good Baba. Maharaj-ji said and put the picture by his head. That's such a synchronicity that we just spoke about Shirdi Sai Baba and there he is. Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Anyway, great. All right, let's spend a few minutes doing a chant. I'm just going to do Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. We'll do it for like 5 minutes or so. Just going to mute everyone. Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. 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 All right, whenever you're ready, you can open your eyes. All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining and adding your energy. Thank you for helping us create these spaces. You show up, so we are able to do this. So, thank you. Anything anyone wants to say, you can. I'll stop the recording now.